See, I'll be handling geography, right? Now, when you look at this particular subject, now there are certain things that you need to know about this particular subject. And after giving such kind of disclaimers, I would like to enter this subject, right? Now, when you talk about geography, it is very, very conceptual in nature, right? Now, compared to history, other subjects, you would have less to memorize, point number one. Point number two, whatever you're learning as part of this particular subject, you will be able to see. Now, this is monsoon season, right? Beautiful flowering will be happening. You will see rains happening, right? And when we study this phenomena of Indian monsoon, or when we study this phenomena of the corresponding causative factors of Indian monsoon, you will be able to relate, right? And suddenly in October, you will see that it is scorching heat. Just before your winters, it is scorching heat. And you might wonder that in November, your winter will start, and suddenly in October or mid-October, you would have something called as October heat. Again, you will be able to relate that acha, so and so phenomena is what is the causative factor for having such scorching heat in the case of October, right? Now, suddenly you will see high clouds. On one day, you will see there is no clouds, right? You will see the presence of stars. You will see absence of stars, right? Now, here what is happening with respect to this subject knowledge of geography is that you will be able to relate it with the nature. And once you have a pretty decent balance on this particular geography as a subject, the biggest advantage that you will get is your environment as a subject will become easy. What happens with environment is nothing but, to simply put it, the relation between geography and environment. Environment is a consequence of geography. Geography is the cause, environment is the effect. Because now for a particular tree to grow in one particular area, what you need? You need sunlight, you need rainfall, you need humidity, you need soil, you need fertility of the soil, you need certain microorganisms in the soil. Yes or no? Yes. Yes. Now, all these aspects you will study in geography. That with respect to sunlight, you will talk about something called as solar insolation, right? Now, do not panic about the terminologies that I'm using, right? I'm just making you acquaint with the kind of terminologies that we are going to use in geography as a subject. Please be aware of that, right? Because what happens is this subject demands a certain command over certain terminologies, right? I cannot say that sun rays will fall on the earth and it starts heating up, it starts boiling. I can't use such terminology because Sai pe charcha and I have to differentiate, right? Sai pe charcha and a person who is learning geography and who is going to write geography has to be differentiated. Now, that kind of differentiation, that kind of technicality comes only with these terms. And instead of sun rays, I will say it is solar insolation, right? So, this is something terminology laden subject, right? Now, we were discussing about that there is a relation between environment and geography. You have your sunlight, you have your stars, you have your soil. Now, you realize that the multiple factors with respect to your geography is determining what is the nature of soil. In India itself, you will see somewhere it is black soil, somewhere it is red soil, somewhere it is desert soil, somewhere it is alpine soils, right? Somewhere it is saline soils. Now, this kind of distribution with respect to the geographical phenomena, you will be able to better understand. So, one advantage with geography is that whatever we study, we can see it happening, right? But you know that any phenomena which is having advantage will also have some disadvantages, right? Nobody is a perfect man. Just like that, we have some pros and cons. We have just like that strengths and weaknesses. This subject also has certain disadvantage. When you talk about the subject as a disadvantaged manner, is that every phenomena does not apply to every condition. Is that there are some exceptions. There are some exceptions for a particular geographical phenomena to appear, right? Now, you might understand or you might think suddenly there is rainfall in the March. And you will not be able to understand after reading the subject, why is this rainfall happening in the month of March, just before summer? It's an exception. It's an exception. And the geographical or the geological scientists say, "Arey Babu, it happens." That exception happens because we are never perfect. Nature is never perfect. It has its own emulations, it has its own modifications, it has its own changes that it undertakes. Right? So one disadvantage is whatever you are studying, there are some exceptions to that particular phenomenon. Now, when you talk about covering or when you talk about knowing those exceptions, as and when there is an exceptions to a particular phenomena, I'll be discussing that. Right? I'll be telling that this particular phenomena has so and so exceptions. So you don't need to worry about whether will I be able to identify these exceptions or whether will I not be able to identify these exceptions. You need not worry. Right? Now the generality of the subject I have discussed. Right? That is, you can see what is happening. Very simple. You can see what is happening. Right? But when you talk about the importance of this subject in the context of examination. Now, when you look at geography as a subject in the context of examination, you have it appearing in both prelims as well as mains, right? Now, when you look at prelims, geography comes in 2-3 different formats. It can come as conceptual geography or it can come as a factual geography. Now, when you talk about conceptual geography, we will discuss about different concepts with respect to geography. That aspect will be asked. Now, if you talk about factual geography, something like mapping. Where is this place? What is the importance, right? Something like that. Something like mapping. Okay. Or something related to human geography, right? What is the population dynamics? Because 2021, you get new census. 2021, there was supposed to be one new census that was supposed to be given. Now, which will release somewhere between before you give your attempt in 2023, right? So that becomes a subject matter and that becomes part of your factual geography. Okay, or it can be a mapping, it can be a factual geography in the context of census, or it can be factual geography in the context of agriculture also. You will realize that the conceptual aspect of agriculture or the physiological aspect of agriculture, we will deal in geography. We'll deal in geography as part of human geography, right? So this is in the context of prelims. When you look at the trends of geography in the context of prelims, from 2011, because 2011 is the year where there was a pattern change. Please. Where there was a pattern change when you talk about the prelims examination. From 2011 onwards, till now we have finished around 11 years of prelims examination. This year 12th, right? Now when you observe the trends of the geography in the prelims examination, you would see that till 2016, there was a pretty decent mix of geography, the conceptual geography and factual geography. But after 2016, that is 2017, 2018, 2019, when you look at the 2017, 2018, 2019 question papers regarding geography, you find that the UPSC is shifting more towards factual geography, more towards applicative geography or something called as environmental geography. Rather than talking about conceptual geography, it is shifting towards environmental geography. What do you basically mean by environmental geography? That geography which is determining an environmental phenomenon. Simple definition, right? We generally do. If you do not know any definition, what we'll do? We'll define in that manner only. What is black hole? Hole which is black. But actually, that is not the case. In the same manner, what we do is that environmental geography is that geography which is determining some environmental phenomena, which is determining the nature of vegetation, which is determining the nature of biodiversity. So from 2016 or 2017, 18, 19 onwards, what you find is there is the shift happening. Now again from 2020, 2021 and 2022, the UPSC has made a comeback regarding conceptual geography. Especially last year, there was a question, I think in 2021, there was a question with respect to the planetary winds that we will study maybe in the second or third session of geography. And this year, there was a question on cloud formation, high clouds and low clouds. And when you look at these high clouds and low clouds, we'll discuss about this in the context of precipitation as a converging topic between atmosphere and hydrosphere. We'll discuss all this, right? So what is happening is this conceptual geography happens to become important. Now this is the scenario with respect to prelims examination. Now when I talk about mains examination, the geography is going to play a major role with respect to GS1. You know that you have 4 subjects. I think by now you would have known. Yes, you people are brave souls that you have taken the decision of preparing for UPSC. You are no less than a soldier of Indian Army. Antena? Antena? Because see, every civil servant, every public servant is a warrior for the country. Yes. Even from a clerk in the government office to a highest minister, they are public servants. That's why so much of importance is given to so-called Sarkari Naukari. Why they call it Sarkari Naukari? Why do people crave for Sarkari Naukari? Because the linchpin function that you make in the functioning of system of India. Right? And when you talk about your cadre and when you talk about the choice that you have made and the level of post that you are going to sit in, it is phenomenal. Right? Now, I somewhere believe that whatever you have, the decision that you have taken with respect to entering or preparing for civil services or trying for civil services, trying hard to get into the service, will certainly give you a generational change. Now, what do you basically mean by generational change? Just imagine you become an IAS or IPS or IRS, any civil servant. Now, don't you think the generation of your parents is going to change? They will have a sudden shift in their social status. They'll have their sudden shift in their economic status, right? Your next generation, yes or no? Your next generation, that means they say no, kodte getti kottali. Huh? Kodte getti kottali. That is something like this. That with 1 year of hard work that you're going to do, or if you say for 2023, there are 10 months, next 10 months of hard work, after that for means again 3 months, 13 months, again for interview 2 more months, 15 months. 15 months of hard work in your life is changing the life of 3 generations. Right? That this itself makes you a warrior. This itself makes you a sacrificial being that 3 generations బాగుపరచడానికి you have come forward, you have taken a step. Yes. Yes. Now, coming back to the subject. Now, when you talk about the aspect of means, the geography is very, very important in the context of GS1. Because when you look at GS1 composition, you know that there are 3 broad subjects, right? 1, history. I am mixing history with art and culture, right? Then we have geography. Then we have society. History, art and culture, geography and society. That means if this paper is for 250 marks, that means each of this is supposed to have 1/3 weightage. If it is having 1/3 weightage, around 85 marks to 90 marks. That is the weightage of geography in your GS1. Now, geography is not only applicable in the context of GS1, it is also applicable in the context of GS3. Because you know that in GS3, there are clump of subjects which are present. One is with respect to economy. The second one is with respect to environment. The third one is with respect to disaster management. The fourth one is with respect to S&T. The fifth one is with respect to internal security. Now, again, these 2 parts of GS3 will be taken care by geography. Because unless and until you understand the geographical setup of a particular region, you cannot comment upon its environmental profile. You cannot comment upon its environmental issues. You cannot comment upon the environmental management or biodiversity conservation aspect of it. Because for you to conserve tiger, you need to know you need to have grasslands. And for you to know that there is grassland or there is an ecosystem called grassland, you need to have certain temperature conditions, you need to have certain rainfall conditions, you need to have certain soil conditions, you need to have certain humidity levels. And all this you will learn in geography. And once you understand this subject, you will be able to apply it very well to the environmental understanding as well as disaster management. What is disaster management? Simple understanding of disaster management is when there is some disturbance in the nature. Simple. Now, that disturbance can be created by human being. That disturbance can be created in itself. Nobody goes and shakes the earth. They say by shaking the earth, you get earthquake more. There is something called as tectonic activity that is happening. That is what is resulting in earthquake. Right? So something can be natural in nature, something can be caused by human beings. And for you to demarcate and for you to delineate and for you to enumerate these kinds of the causative factors with respect to different disasters, you need to understand geography. Because in geography, we'll also study about something called as geomorphology. Geomorphology basically means study of the components of Earth. Geo means Earth. Whatever is there, morphology means what is the form of it. We'll study whatever is present with respect to the Earth. We'll study what are the components of it. Now, once you're able to understand the components, you will be able to better understand how are its dynamics playing out in the context of earthquake, in the context of volcanoes. Simple, right? So this would somewhere carry around, I'll say disaster management of 25 marks, this around maybe say 20. I'll round it up to 50 marks. So on an average, 150 marks. 150 marks with respect to geography. And when you look at the schema of exam in the context of mains, you would understand that there are some subjects which are very, very objective. And there are some subjects which are very, very subjective, right? Now, those subjective subjects like ethics, those subjective subjects like essay, those subjective matters like society, those subjective matters like governance. Now, here it demands a detailed understanding of the subject. It not only talks about the detailed understanding and the awareness of the concepts, it also talks about the applicative aspect, the application to a greater extent to a real scenario. Now, when I'm talking about ethics, I think the orientation on ethics is over. No, yet to be happen. Okay. When you talk about ethics, you will see that how are your ethics being applied to the public life, professional life. Now, your perception of ethics can be unethical for some other. Now, when you talk about a criminal, his perception of his act being ethical to him is unethical to the law. Yes, is illegal, is against the rule of law, right? All this is there. Now, here what is happening is, in subjects like whatever I just enlisted, there you need to know the concept, you need to understand the concept, you need to apply the concept, you also need to interpret the concept. And if you miss any stage of this, you will not get marks. Simple, simple. Now, this aspects you don't need to worry, because faculty will anyway take care of all these 4 aspects, right? Now, whichever faculty is handling this corresponding subject, they'll take care of it. They'll tell you at what level you have to apply, at what level you have to interpret, at what level you have to understand and be aware about that particular concept. Simple. But there are certain subjects which are very, very objective. It's like doing mathematics, that if I do a problem correct, I'll get it right. That's all, right? One such subject is geography. Geography. Because they ask you one concept, because geography is science. In science, there is no interpretation. The science is all about knowing the concept and applying the concept, right? Whereas in these subjective subject matters, we have seen that there are 4 different layers. In this, only you know the subject, you apply the subject. Geography is one. Disaster management is one. International relations is one. Internal security is one. Now, here what is happening in whatever subject matters I have just enlisted, in that you see that you know the concept, you have to apply the concept. Whatever is happening only between these two. And whatever question UPSC wants to pick up, they'll pick up only between these 2 aspects, nothing more. Now, suppose if you're talking about cyclones, how will you apply? The application aspect of cyclone is 1, knowing the concept. Knowing the concept of cyclone, knowing the origin of cyclone, knowing the consequences of cyclone, knowing the prerequisites with respect to a cyclonic condition is subject matter of geography. Yes. Now, when you look at the managing the consequences of cyclone, it is a subject matter of disaster management. That means I'm applying the knowledge of the prerequisites that are necessary for a cyclonic condition to manage the impact of cyclone. You would come across these in mostly coastal areas like Vizag, Odisha. All these places are mostly hit by cyclones. And managing the impact of the cyclone will certainly demand the knowledge of the concept of cyclone. That you will see in geography application is in disaster management. Right? Now, here what is happening? Whatever question the UPSC has to ask, it will ask only between these 2. on the concept of cyclone or on the concept of application in the form of disaster management. Are you getting it? Right? So what is happening is we have to bank upon these 150 marks very, very objectively. And these 150 marks are mostly conceptual in nature. They are mostly conceptual in nature. Right? Once you understand the concepts of geography, you will be able to understand and you will be able to interpret whatever question. There is no element of interpretation. It is straightforward concept. If they are asking you some question on mantle plume, you know that you would have studied about mantle plume in volcanism. That's all. There is no theory behind it. It's that you have learned it, you write it. You know it, you hit it. That's all. Ante katte kotte teche. Antamada, a principle. Same thing applies in these objective subjects, whichever I have enlisted. Right? Now, this is with respect to the academic importance, with respect to the exam orientation of geography. That in prelims you would have a weightage of roughly around, say, 15 to 18 questions. 15 to 18 questions from geography and environmental geography combined. I'm not talking about the core concepts of environment. That's a different part. Right? Now, when you talk about the mains aspect, we will have roughly around 150 marks. Okay. That means subject is very easy. Subject is very, very easy. Right? Unless and until you complicate it. మనం మన జీవితాన్ని కాంప్లికేట్ చేసుకుంటాం. అట్లా without complicating your life, just like that, don't complicate the subject. Just catch the line of the concept, apply it. Chalu. That is sufficient. Right? All are comfortable with Telugu or some North Indians here? I don't know about online people. Lot of noise. I don't know. Okay. 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 Fine. There are some North Indians also, so I have to restrict to whatever my sense of humor has to be restricted to English. Okay. Right? So catching the concept is sufficient in the case of geography. And we'll deal with application when we are discussing your previous year questions. PYQs. As we are learning the concept, you know that where all you should apply. Now, when you learn about the topography of coastal region, or when you learn about the physiography of Indian coast, you would also see that the physiography of Indian coast can be applied towards coastal mining, can be applied towards sand mining, can be applied towards floodplains, right? We'll see in what all dimensions a particular concept of geography can be applied, right? Now, entering the subject. Now, when you look at this subject, there are broad aspects with respect to geography as a subject. The first one is the conceptual part. When you look at the conceptual part for the subject matter of study in the context of examinations, please remember whatever geography we are studying is only in the context of exam, right? Anybody wants to do PhD in geography? No, right? Anybody wants to do some masters or MA or MSc in geography? No, nobody wants to do that. For us, the only focus of study is what? Exam process, right? Whatever the process is demanding, are we equipped with the necessary knowledge? Are we equipped with the necessary techniques to handle the questioning format of a particular process? We'll deal whatever we are doing in the class, we are going to deal only in that orientation, right? Please do not expect, sir, some concept happened somewhere, you did not tell that in the class. Arey Babu, you need to understand that if that is a subject matter of exam, I would have told you, right? I would have told you. If I'm not telling means that is not part of the subject study in the context of examination. For us, only exam is important, right? Now here, little deviation from the subject just for 5 minutes, I'll give you that gyan, wait for some time. Is that when you look at this exam, right, as a person with 6 years of experience with this exam, with attending 4 different interviews, and Recently I've given, on June 13th, I've given my Indian Forest Service interview also. Such an experience of 6 years and such an experience of being teaching students, I think around this is my fifth year, yes, fifth year. Simplest understanding of this exam, I'll tell you. When you look at this philosophy of this exam, the people who consider this exam as a process will succeed to a certain extent in this process. Now, what do you basically mean by considering this particular exam as a process is that now there is a lot of hangama, there is a lot of fog outside saying that civil services means you have to study for 14 hours. Civil services means you have to study for 16 hours. Civil services means you have to study for 18 hours. You should not eat, right? You should not sleep, right? You should not walk normally. You should start walking on hands. Then only you will clear civil services, right? You should do Sirsasana every day, right? Turning upside down, right? If you're not understanding concept, if you turn upside down and read, you will understand the concept. All this they'll tell. There's so much of hue and cry going on that this is a very, very tough process, right? Gaddal Venchkol, you have to grow long beards, right? You have to take sannyasam to crack this exam. All this they'll tell, right? As a person who have been experiencing and who have been successful enough to a certain extent, I'll say no. Process is very, very simple. Believe that. Believing that process is very, very simple is the first step that you're going to take towards this exam. What happens is people outside in the media or people outside everywhere, like I think you'll stay in Ashok Nagar itself, here, right? Now here people will be like, what, that center shock ad? That center shock ad, what you see in center shock, like that fellow eats that center shock and the hair will rise like this. Like that, they'll be eating books and suddenly hair will rise like this. You need to understand, process is not so complex. We unnecessarily make it complex. I'll tell you few sutras with respect to this particular exam, considering you people are beginning your journey now. Yes, people are beginning your journey now, right? Now this process demands three things. Three. I'll call it as three C formula. 3C formula. Now this is my ritual, okay? That in every batch, for first class in every batch, I tell all this, okay? Right? It is 3C formula. Now all the intellectual property rights are on me. I have devised this, right? Please, okay? 3C formula. The first C is consistency. Consistency. If you are having anything, if you are from IIT, if you are from NIT, if you are from MIT, if you are from Stanford, if you are from IIM, if you are from ICER, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because the schema of the exam and the process is devised in such a manner that it respects all disciplines. No discipline is favored, no discipline is seen lesser. It favors all disciplines. It favors all socio-economic backgrounds. It favors all languages, right? Although to a certain extent, little bias towards English, but it has that equanimity element that is imbibed into the process. The first and foremost thing that you need when you come to this particular process, consistency. When you talk about consistency, consistency in working hard. That is the only thing you need. Because what happens is, people will think that they would have worked less. They'll think, whether will I succeed, whether will I get result, whether will I be able to remember whatever I studied in the examination, or whether will I be able to qualify this examination. Now I would straightforwardly say that if you have not worked hard, you do not have any right to think of all this. If you have not worked hard, you do not have any right to even cry on the day of the result. Trust me. Because You did not do the process religiously. You have not followed the process, and without following the process, how can you expect a result? You're planting a lemon seed and expecting a neem tree. How? Can it happen? No. Or you're planting a neem seed and expecting sweet mangoes. Will it happen? Impossible. The nature has to turn upside down to make it happen, but then also it will not happen. So the first and foremost thing that you need is consistency. How consistent are you with respect to your studies? Now, consistency, sir, you mean to say that whole day we need to spend with books? Whole day we have to study, right? All 365 days you have to study, right? All through our life we have to study. Is it that? I'll say, again, personal opinion and personal experience. 10 hours of study. 10 hours of study per day. Now, what do you basically mean by 10 hours of study per day? Does not mean that you study for half an hour, you watch YouTube shorts for half an hour, right? You study for 45 minutes, you watch 15 minutes, some Facebook or Insta, whatever, or WhatsApp. Now, this 10 hours of study means dedicated 10 hours of study. Dedicated. Because you need to understand, out of 24 hours in a day, you're just giving 10 hours for studies. For other, whatever things you want to do, you have 14 hours. Right? Out of these 14 hours, people who sleep for 10 hours, you are already lost. You only have 4 hours to spend for yourself. Right? This can never be compromised. This can never be compromised, should never be compromised. Because what happens is, once you start compromising on this hours of study, sir, are you being really silly about specifying how many hours you should study? I'll tell you, there is a logic here. The logic is, there are different background people who are sitting for this exam. Yes, there are different people with higher cognitive abilities, with a moderate cognitive abilities who are sitting with this, for this exam. Now, if you have to beat a person who is with a higher cognitive ability, what is the only weapon you have? Hard work. If that individual is working for 6 hours or 8 hours, it makes sense for you to work 10 hours. Is it not so? Yes, because he has certain other background, he has certain other setup for which he has developed his own cognitive abilities, for which he is having his own levels of understanding. If he studies 8 hours, that is sufficient for him, he thinks. But this process is process of elimination. This is a process of elimination. At every stage, they are not selecting you, they are eliminating you. At prelims, yesterday prelims result was released. Right? Out of 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs, how many got into the list? 15,000. 14,000, 15,000. How many are eliminated? When you look at the proportion of elimination, that is what makes this examination scary. And for you to stay away from that particular fear, for you to stay away from that particular uncertainty, for you to stay away from that particular failure, the only weapon you have, consistency. Consistency. You be consistent with the process, you be consistent with studies. Trust me, nobody can beat you. Nobody can beat you. Because what is happening is, you know that whatever be the condition tomorrow, I will study for 10 hours. You have that confidence. Yes, you know that I can study for 10 hours, whatever be the condition. Then tell me who is going to come and beat you? Nobody can beat you, because you're very certain that I'm going to study for 10 hours every day. Right? Now this C is equals to C. Consistency is equals to confidence. Confidence. Now, if you want, try this out. Try this out. For 1 week, every day study 10 hours. Right? On the 8th day, you will start walking like this. And if somebody comes and asks you, "Arey, why are you walking like that?" You will say that in past 7 days, I have been studying for 10 hours every day. Trust me. The level of confidence that you get with this consistency is immense, my dear. I'm not talking theoretically. It's a thing of practice. I've done it. From past 6 years, from June 13, 2022, prior to that 6 years, there was no day that I did not study for 10 hours. That is a day where I ended my process of UPSC. And prior to that, there was no day where I did not study for 10 hours. I always maintain a record of my day, and you can vouch me on that. Consistency. That's extremely important. You have intelligence, you have money, nothing matters. Consistency matters. You're consistent, you're confident. You're consistent and you're confident. Now, the second equation or second part of this 3C formula is confidence is equals to clarity. When you have confidence, when you're confident that whatever you're doing is right, when you're confident that whatever process you're following is in the right direction, you automatically will have clarity. Clarity of what? Clarity of life, clarity of process, clarity of subject, clarity of concept, clarity of question paper, clarity of answer. Don't you think so? It's an obvious thing. It's a very, very obvious thing. And it's a chain reaction that happens that starts with a nuclear fusion activity of consistency. You be consistent. You be consistent for next 10 months. Trust me, nobody will stop you. Even if there is some disaster coming and trying to take you away, it cannot. It cannot. This is not only for this exam, this is Sutra of life. You have to remember. This is one very, very important aspect for those who are entering this particular process. I'm glad that I met you very, very early. Because generally for other batches, I meet them after 1.5 months of their starting the process of UPSC. Now I think this is your 4th day, 5th day, 4th day, yeah. So I'm glad that I met you early, so that you cannot waste even that 1 hour or that 1 month or 1.5 months. Try this, try this, try this, trust me. Now, because I'll tell you simple logic again, simple logic. The day you're confident, you're clear, you have clarity. And say, you have given the exam, you have written means, you have gone till interview, and because of certain uncontrollable factors or because of certain mistakes that you have made in the process, you failed. You failed because I'll tell you certain things about this process also, right? You have failed. Now, when you fail, UPSC itself is stating that you can write 6 times. That means it is a game of chance. You can take the chance, write the exam. Now, for you to transcend from one attempt to the next attempt, what is the thing that is going to drive you? The only thing that is going to drive you is that the feeling that, Arey Babu, still I can study for 10 hours every day for my next attempt. That consistency. This formula not only drives you through the process, it not only drives you through the success process, this also drives you towards how to handle a failure. Because everybody can handle success. If you are not handling success, the people around you will handle success. Because they'll say, Arey, this fellow belongs to me. This fellow is my so. Right? Some far relative also will say, Acha, this fellow from childhood, he was very, very sharp. When he is born, only on his forehead it was written, he is an IAS officer. The God has written with the golden letters and sent him. Because handling success is very easy. If you are not handling it, people around you will handle it and keep you on a certain pedestal. But handling failure is very, very difficult. And you have to learn that handling failure. Because one thing is very certain, my dear, that this process, if you are respecting this process, the process will respect you one day, certainly. There is never a breach of this principle in the history of UPSC and UPSC aspirants. You are respecting the process will certainly respect you one day. There is no doubt, there is no element of doubt in that. With all conviction, I can say. Right? Now, in this conviction that process will certainly respect you one day, the only thing that is going to drive you is again consistency. Right? From where will you get that hope? Consistency. From where will you visualize that you are going to become an IAS officer in the next attempt? Consistency. Because it's not that I sleep on my bed till 10 o'clock and I dream getting down from a car with a red light. That does not happen. That does not make you an IAS officer. But the only thing that makes you drive towards this process is consistency, right? This is first sutra with respect to this preparation. I'll just take 5 more minutes and I'll get back to subject, right? Now, see, my sessions are going to be like this only, okay? Lot of experiences I'll share. I think you have attended my previous sessions. You will know how my sessions are, right? So don't worry, I'll remember every phase, right? You are my 2 years back student, 3 years back student, 4 years back student. I have a very bad habit of remembering faces. Okay, I don't know whether it is bad, whether it is good, right? That is not to pinpoint, but it is only a kind of respect to the student who has spent some time with me and respecting that kind of relation that I share with my students, right? Now I can tell you in which batch I have seen also, right? I have a very bad habit of remembering, okay? Now the second sutra I'll tell. I was talking about my classes. My classes will be like this, okay? Subject, application, and lessons for life. In every class, there will be some lessons for life. I'll take 5 minutes. Don't say sir is deviating, right? Sir is not teaching subject. Don't worry. Geography, I'll take care, right? Geography, I'll take care. That's my promise, my bharosa, that your geography and concepts of geography and environment and disaster management are taken care. Don't worry. You can leave it to me. But whatever additional element, the value additions that I'm giving on life, on this process, please carry it forward. Because those are not something which have been extracted from books, but those are which have been experienced. And those which have been experienced, and there are certain mistakes which I have made, and I would confess that these were the mistakes that I have made, that I could not make it to the list in my first attempt, in the final list, in the second attempt after interview, in my final list, in my fourth attempt. I will tell you, so that you will learn from those mistakes and not repeat them. And that's my responsibility also, right? Now, the second sutra of this journey and this preparation is the theory of incremental growth. This is not some economic concept, okay? Please. You might think incremental growth rate, right? Poverty and then economy. No. Theory of incremental growth. Now, what is the value of this? 1 power 100? 1, right? Now, if I am bringing a 1% change to this entity, the value of 1, I'm making it 1.01 to the power 100. What is the value? Do you have your mobile phones? Take out the calculator once. I think it's around 27 point something. Just check once. Or 28. Say it is around 28. Okay. Now what has happened here? To explain this equation and to describe this equation, if you are making a 1% improvement in your life, in your knowledge base, in your character, in your attitude for 100 days, you have transformed yourself 28 times. Simplest understanding. Simple understanding of this equation. Is it how much? 28? 2.7. Okay. Double. Fine. 2.8. Double. Now how much? I think it is 1.1 per 100 is, I think, 28. Something like that will be there. Okay. Right? 2.8. Now that means what is happening with respect to this is that you're improving yourself just with 1% change for every day for 100 days. Thrice. You're improving yourself thrice. Now this is what is called as theory of incremental growth. That means when you're studying, and when you make an increment of 1% for 100 days, I am becoming triple, right? Just like Dashavatar, you will become triple, right? You're becoming thrice a better person just with 1% change. And to even put it simpler, that I told you that you are going to have a 10 hours of study. 10 hours of study, the sutra of 10 hours, the mantra of 10 hours of study. That means if I have to change 1% every day, that means if I change 0.1% per hour. This is the amount of change just for 100 days. Now you have how many days? Roughly 300 days. 10 months. 10 months on an average, right? Because May 28th is your exam. Today is June 23rd, right? Roughly 11 months or 10 months I'm taking it. 10 months means 30 days on an average, 300 days. 300 days. Now just look at the amount of improvement that you can make by just being consistent for these days. Don't you think it's phenomenal? What am I doing? I'm just improving day by day a bit. It's not about an overnight stardom that just like in your engineering exams that you will study one night and go and write the exam and come off. Arey, one night batting, we finished. That doesn't work here. The thing that makes you work here, the thing that makes you keep on the path is progressing every day. Progressing every day. Just 1%. That movie, Deepika Padukone says, no? Ek chutki ki sindoor. Just 1%. Just 1% change will flip you altogether. Now, people fail to understand this. When you fail to understand this, what you face is that kind of low feeling. You will say, no, I'm feeling low. I'm feeling moody. I'm having mood swings. All this you say. The reason is you think that you have not done anything for the past 1 month. You have not done anything for the past 15 days. That's a feeling of regret. Now, when you have seen that you are improving 1% every day for 100 days, now will you have a feeling of regret? No. Chanceless. You will never have feeling of regret. Because you know that you are making a conscious progress, you know that you are making a conscious improvement. Simple. Please remember these two. One is 3C formula, the other one is incremental growth. Theory of incremental growth. Right? Now let's get back to geography. Conceptual. Now when you talk about geography, there are 3 broad areas which we generally discuss as part of concepts. One, we talk about something called as climatology. We talk about something called as climatology. Now, when you talk about climatology, it basically deals with the atmosphere aspect. That means temperature, pressure, rainfall, humidity, wind systems, right? All these are part of your climatology. Now, whatever parameter is determining the nature of the climate of a particular region, I'm going to study here. And you know that the father of this particular branch or the head of this particular branch happens to be the sun. Because sun is the only source or only natural source of heat and temperature. And you would realize the magic of climatology lies with the variation of the temperature across different latitudes. And you will see that as the temperature is varying, you will see a variation with respect to the amount of pressure. You will also see the amount of humidity in a particular air mass changing. We'll discuss all these relations. And you will see that this particular relation of the temperature, this particular relation of the pressure, this particular relation of the humidity, this particular relation with respect to the precipitation, and this particular relation with respect to the speed of the wind will determine what is the nature of the climate. Simple. That's all climatology is. Climatology is you will see how one parameter is operating the other. Once you understand these variations, how one is operating the other, you will automatically apply these concepts of variation, these concepts of dynamics, and understand how is your climate varying. Simple, right? Then the second important concept that we'll see is oceanography. Oceanography. Now, when you talk about oceanography, it basically deals with hydrosphere, the water aspect. Hydrosphere, right? Now, when you look at hydrosphere, you know that 97% of the earth is water. It's under water. We know that major land is covered with water. Now, you would see that these oceans or the abundance of water or the presence of water will also have certain dynamics. Because any water will have some particles in it. And based on the amount of the particles in this water, don't you think the amount of density of water is determined? Yes, the density of water is determined. Now, based on the density of the water, you know that anything which is from high density to low density, don't you think it will move? There is a kind of gradient, there is a kind of difference that is happening which is moving from high density to low density. Now, this kind of dynamics will have certain impact on the atmosphere also. We'll see how is this hydrosphere or how is this oceanography determining the nature of climate in that particular region. Because at the end of the day, your economics, the social life, the health, all these are dependent on climatology. Now take a classic example. Don't you think the Indian monsoon has a relation with the kind of festival celebrated in India? Yes. The kind of harvesting system also has a festival celebrated in India. Sankranti is what? It's a harvest festival. Now that means the umbrella that is going to determine the nature of the social life, the nature of the economic life, the nature of the trading activity or the communication activity that is done in a particular region is all climate. Right? And we'll see that this oceanography aspect here, one very, very important concept that we'll discuss is what is called as oceanic currents. Just like we have wind system on the earth, we have wind system. That wind blows from high pressure to low pressure. We'll see all this. It blows from high pressure to low pressure. It is balancing the heat distribution. Just like wind system, we also have movement of water, which are called as oceanic currents. Right? And once you understand oceanography, once you understand climatology, there is a converging topic called precipitation. Precipitation is nothing but rainfall. Precipitation, rainfall. Now, when you talk about precipitation, the precipitation will be of different forms. It can be in the form of rainfall, it can be in the form of snow, it can be in the form of hail, it can be in the form of fog, it can be in the form of mist, it can be in the form of dew, it can be in the form of sleet. You have different forms of precipitation. Now, the content is what? The content is water. They say no. Whatever be the body, the soul is one. The same thing. Whatever be the form of precipitation, the soul is water. Now, when you talk about this form of precipitation, you would see that certain parameters of climatology, certain parameters of hydrography or oceanography is going to determine what is the nature of precipitation. Because again, I told you that the umbrella parameter that is going to determine what is the kind of precipitation is temperature. Because what you would see, with temperature, the pressure is going to vary. With temperature, the amount of moisture a particular air mass is holding is also going to vary. Now, when this kind of coexistence and when this kind of convergence and when this kind of variation is existing vis-a-vis temperature, automatically you will see that the nature of precipitation is varying. And there we'll discuss about number of concepts like saturation temperature, dew point. We'll talk about the conducive factors for precipitation being the relative humidity as well as condensation nuclei. Don't worry, we'll discuss all this there. So we are talking about climatology, we have talked about oceanography, we have talked that there is some convergence zone between this in the form of precipitation. Now, before precipitation occurs, you will have clouds, cloud formation. Yes, and you have to know that there is one particular criteria where this cloud gets transformed into precipitation. And we look at what are those conditions. And you will also see what are the different forms of clouds. You will see that there are high clouds, middle clouds, low clouds. We'll see that there are something called as cirrus clouds, there are something called as alto clouds, there is something called as cumulus clouds, there is something called as nimbus clouds, there is something called as cumulonimbus clouds. We'll see how are these formed. We'll see what is it impacting or how is it impacting with respect to your weather or climate. Because you know that weather and climate are different. Weather is which is local, which is temporary, whereas climate which is on a larger region, which is more permanent. And to simply put it, climate is an aggregate of weather of different regions. It's an average phenomenon. Simple. Don't worry, it's very, very easy. This is your first session. That's why these terms might seem very, very complex and bombastic and verbose, but they're very, very easy. Very easy because it's all conceptual, right? It's all conceptual and you will see them happening across or around you, right? Now, once we discuss oceanography, we'll go for geomorphology. We'll go for geomorphology. Now, when you talk about geomorphology, the name itself says geomorphology. Means, geo means earth, morphology means form. Now, in this geomorphology, we'll study what are the different layers of earth. Like we have crust, we have core, we have mantle. We'll see what are the layers which are differentiating it. We'll see what are the material composition of all of this layers. We'll see how is one layer determining the layer or other layer. We'll see how is one layer determining the Earth's magnetism. We'll talk about concepts called as paleomagnetism. Right? We'll see all these concepts in the context of geomorphology. Now, once we understand about geomorphology and the interiors of the Earth, you will also start to understand how is earthquake happening. You will see what are the components for an earthquake to occur. You will see what are the different nature or different kinds of waves that are generated when an earthquake occurs. We'll have something called as primary waves, we'll have something called as secondary waves, we'll have something called as love waves, we'll have something called as Rayleigh waves. And we'll also see how are we going to measure these earthquakes. Now, when you talk about measurement, you would have heard about something called as Richter scale. Richter scale, 6.1 Richter scale, 6.2 Richter scale, 8 Richter scale, right? Now, that is one kind of measurement. Similar like Richter scale, we also have something called as Mercalli scale. We'll also have something called as modified Mercalli scale. We'll discuss all this. Then once we look at earthquakes, we'll talk about volcanism. And volcanism, you know that it is basically ejection of certain material, molten material from the surface or from the core of the earth. Now, when some material is coming out of the earth in the form of a splash, I call it as a volcano. Now, when this volcano comes out, you know that the temperature difference is existing. When there is temperature difference, it settles down. Now, when it is settled down, what is happening? When it is settling down, what is happening? There is a kind of landform that is created. That means it is settling down. It might result in a hill, something like this, or it might result in a form, something like this, or it might result in a form, something like this, right? Now, when we study the concept of volcanism, we'll talk about something called as acidic volcanoes and basic volcanoes. We'll see how are they different, and we'll see what is the nature of the landform that is resultant because of acidic volcanism and basic volcanism. Now, once we study about this acidic volcanism and basic volcanism, and when we look at the characteristics and when you look at the differences between these, we'll move into something called as landforms of volcanism. That means when the volcanic or when the molten material is coming out, it is solidifying outside. When it is solidifying outside, don't you think it will form a landform? It will form some landform, like some hill, something like this, like this. Now, there are two different types of landforms a particular volcano can form. That is intrinsic. Intrinsic means inside, which is below the earth's surface. Extrinsic, which is outside. We'll see what are the different forms of such volcanic landforms are existing. Right? Now, once we talk about different forms of landforms, then we'll move into the different types of rocks. Different types of rocks. You know that we'll have primary rock, we'll have secondary rock, we'll have something called as igneous rock, we'll have something called as metamorphic rock, we'll have something called as sedimentary rocks. And we'll look into how are these formed. We'll look into in what all aspects these can be applied. And when we talk about or when we extrapolate these presence to India, to what all regions are they spread? When we are looking at the physiography of Indian geography, we'll look at where all these are spread. Right? Don't you think it is interesting? It is interesting. Yes. If it is not interesting also, I'll make it more interesting. Right? Don't worry. Don't worry. Just pay attention towards the concept. It's all easy. Pay attention towards the concept. Go back and read the NCERT. 11th standard NCERT, 12th standard NCERT, whatever topic we are doing, your geography is over. You can straight away sit in the exam and start writing answer. Don't worry. You can do that. Because this is all conceptual. Very, very simple to understand. Very, very simple to apply. Right? Next, once we do this geomorphology, The second important aspect that we look in geography is human geography. Human geography. Now, when we talk about human geography, now you know that the geographical parameters in a particular region will determine the population. Yes. Now, say if there is high temperature, will you have more population there? No. They'll run away. Right? Will you stay in hot sun? No. Now, just imagine you can't stay for 1 hour in hot sun without AC. How do you expect them to stay for lifelong there? Generations and generations? No. That means, now tell me, if that particular region is prone for frequent floods, will you go and sit so that you will have water park effect there? No. That doesn't happen. What is happening here is the geographical phenomena is determining the nature of the population. We talk about something called as population dynamics. We talk about something called as demography. We talk about something called as demographic dividend. We talk about something called as Malthusian theory of population. We'll talk about something called as Nordenstein's theory of demographic transition. Don't worry. These are not more difficult than understanding your Korean serials. You people will be watching Korean serials. Huh? Sure. Right. Faces are glowing like LED bulbs. I think when you're able to understand Korean serials, geography is very easy to understand. Okay. So, we'll talk about all this: demographic transition, demographic dividend, demographic liability, and theory of population. Now, once you understand this population dynamics, we have to talk about different parameters of a population. We have to talk about age and sex ratio. We have to talk about population pyramids. We have to talk about, when you talk about population pyramids, we have to see what is the age bracket distribution with respect to a particular set of population. Now, that means if you take the example of India, you know that the age bracket of 16 to 64, we have more people present. 16 to 64, we have more people present. Right? That is the reason why India is called as young nation, because we have more working population. And we have to look at all these dynamics, and we have to look at what are the factors that are determining the dynamics of this. And we'll talk about migration. Now, when you talk about migration, you know that there are certain factors which are making you migrate. For you people, you have migrated from your hometown just in the context of preparation. Right? Now, in this migration, you know that there can be either a pull factor or a push factor. Pull factor is something which is attractive. Push factor is something which is not attractive. It's like it is kicking you from the place where you're staying. For example, if you talk about disasters, disaster is a push factor. Disaster is a push factor. If you talk about employment, employment is a pull factor. What about marriage? Is it push factor or pull factor? Because when you look at the migration of Indian women, 75% of the migration of Indian women happens because of marriage. Right? Now tell me whether it is a pull factor or push factor. You cannot say. You cannot say. Right? Now, it is generally considered as pull factor, but in the feministic context, it is considered as push factors. Okay, because the liberty of the women is restricted to marriage to a certain extent in this context. Okay. Now, we'll talk about migration. We'll talk about different aspects of population densities. We'll talk about different distributions of population. Now, once we deal with human geography, then we have to enter economic geography. Now, when you talk about economic geography, the subject matter of study in the context of economic geography is that we'll deal with different economic activities. We'll deal with different economic activities like agriculture, right? Like transportation, like services, like industries, right? The major aspects of agriculture we'll see. We'll see what is agricultural density. We'll see what is physiological density. We'll see what are the different types of farming. We'll see what is mulching technique. We'll see what is conservation agriculture. We'll see what is counter ploughing. We'll see what is terrace farming. We'll see what is strip farming. We'll see what is mixed farming. We'll see what is mixed cropping, right? All this we'll see. We'll see what is tillage, we'll see what is zero tillage, we'll see what is conservation tillage, we'll see what is strip tillage. And we'll also see alternative forms of farming systems like organic farming, zero budget natural farming, vertical farming, Vedic farming. There are different alternative forms of farming. We'll discuss all this. Then once we discuss all this agricultural aspect, we'll also talk about the industrial aspect. Now, when you talk about the industrial aspect, you need to talk about the location of industries. Now, when you talk about the location of industries, there we'll talk about different kinds of industries, be it iron and steel industry, your nuclear, right, or your cement or pharmaceutical or electronics. There we'll talk about something called as sunrise industries. There we'll talk about something called as footloose industries. We'll look at the concepts of footloose and sunrise. Sunrise industry is nothing but which is growing. How will your sunrise appear? Slowly illuminating, and suddenly as it rises, it illuminates to a greater extent. The same thing happens with the industry. Sunrise industry is that industry which is growing, which is booming. Footloose industry. Footloose industry means, any dancer here? Footloose dance, footloose. What is footloose dance? They'll randomly put some music, you have to dance. Your foot appears to be very, very loose in that dance, right? Footloose. Footloose means you're dancing for any kind of music, right? Generally, when you do in marriages and all, people will be struggling to decipher whether this fellow is doing Kathakali or Kathak. Huh? You will mix all forms, okay, right? Footloose industry is that industry which can be set up anywhere. It does not depend upon any industrial location factors which is going to determine its location. It can be set up anywhere. One classic example is with respect to diamond polishing. I can set up anywhere. Electronics, I can set up anywhere. Right? So these industries, we'll see certain examples with respect to footloose industries, and we'll also see what is the characteristic features of with respect to these footloose industries. Now, once we talk about this, then we'll talk about services. We'll talk about services. Now, to an extent, there is a convergence between this topic and in your economy also you will study about this. Services, right? There you will talk about mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, mode 4 forms of services, right? Then once you talk about services, then we'll talk about transportation and communication to an extent. Because transportation and communication is not so much relevant to the examination, it is only relevant in the context of mains. If at all they have to go for some questioning with respect to telecommunication, with respect to your networking systems, then it might get handy. For example, if they ask you about IT industry, information technology industry, just like in 2021 mains, they are asked in GS1 paper, right? So in that juncture, we have to talk about these things. Once you understand the factors of location of an industry, it's very easy for you to extrapolate these factors to other industries, right? So your geography is over. Finish. So easy. Huh? That's all we're going to do in geography. It's a simple subject. Keep it simple. Do not complicate it. Right? Do not read Kuller. Right? There are very, very fat books which are being read by optional people. Please do not read them. You don't need them. The only source that I would suggest, do you have the source list? You have the source list already? The sources for geography is NCRTs, 11th and 12th NCRTs, GC Leong, sufficient. You don't need anything more, because once you're able to understand the concepts from these books and apply it, that is more than sufficient for you to get good scores in whatever subject you're writing, right? Now, there is one more small aspect with respect to this geography, one applicative aspect with respect to this geography is that now when all these aspects converge, we have something called as biomes. Now, this enters the aspect of environmental geography, biomes. Now, when you talk about biomes, you will see that whole of your earth is partitioned in the context of different biomes that are present. There might be grasslands, there might be deserts, there might be evergreen forests, there might be tundra or coastal, right? Or there might be coniferous, there might be savannas, there might be steppes. Different kinds of biomes are present. Now, when you talk about different kinds of biomes being present, you would understand that all these are driven by the application of these concepts. In a region where you have high amounts of precipitation and very low amounts of evaporation, automatically there is evergreen vegetation there. We'll discuss all those. And in a region where there is high amount of evaporation, we use a concept called as per evapotranspiration. Now, when the per evapotranspiration is very, very high in a particular region compared to the precipitation, we have desert ecosystem. Now, when there is a intermediate path where both are balanced, that means the per evapotranspiration is balanced with the precipitation, then I'll have grasslands. If it is completely icy structure, if the floor is completely covered with the ice and if it is completely cold, I call it as tundra. If there is a partial mix of temperature, if there is a partial mix of cold nature, I call it as coniferous. You have Christmas trees, those are coniferous kind of vegetation. We'll see that how is this biome or what is the nature of the vegetation, how is it varying in the context of geography. Now, this is all about your world geography. World geography, you have learned all the concepts. Now, once you have learned all these concepts as part of your world geography, you apply that to the context of India, right? Because now you don't need to learn separately that how is rainfall being happening or how is this precipitation happening, how is the climate being moderated, why are coastal communities depending on fishing. You don't need to understand all this because you've already done all this understanding in world geography. Now, I'm just applying all of those concepts, whatever I've learned in India, because we are Indians, right? If we were writing US civil services, we could have written this, or if you are writing China civil services, we could apply to China. If you are writing Nepal civil services or Pakistan civil services, right? You should be privileged to write Pakistan civil services, right? You cannot just write like that. Such a great country. They don't have food to eat, but they want nuclear heads. How many of you watched that movie Dictator? Not Balaya Babu's Dictator. English movie Dictator. He'll say no. This, right? The Pakistan situation and the leadership of Pakistan is something very similar. Right? Not to spread hatred, but it's one of our neighbors, one of our old, very, very good friends. Very, very good friends, in fact, right? So we have to feel pity and maybe, if given a chance, make it part of India somewhere future. Somewhere in future down the line, make it part of India so that our next or next to next generation will talk that we can visit Balochistan or we can visit some parts of Karachi for buying Karachi biscuits. Right? Just kidding. Okay. Indian context. Now, when you talk about Indian context, there are 4 to 5 dimensions that we are going to discuss as part of Indian geography. The first dimension that we are going to discuss as part of Indian geography is physiography. Indian physiography. We are going to discuss about Indian physiography. Now, as part of this Indian physiography, what we are going to see is, we are going to see why there are Himalayas upstates, right? Why there is Western Ghats this side, right? Why we have coastals, why there is Deccan Plateau here, why we have northern plains, why is it sandy? All these aspects we'll discuss, right? All these aspects we'll discuss. Now, once you understand the physiography of India and Indian geography, we will enter the Indian climate. Because the climate of a particular region is determined by physiography. You will suddenly see that there are a lot of rainfall that is happening on the case of Western Ghats. Right? Next to the Western Ghats only you have regions like Vidarbha. Yes, which is a drought region. You have Saurashtra, which is a drought region. Right? Now you will understand all this phenomena. And one very, very important aspect of climate that we are going to discuss is Indian monsoon. And you will see a whole lot of dynamics happening, whole lot of dynamics taking place with respect to Indian monsoon. There are certain causes for Indian monsoon, right? The physiography can be a cause, the climate can be a cause for Indian monsoon, and there are certain consequences of Indian monsoon. And in the recent past, you also find there are certain dynamics with respect to Indian monsoon. Now, when you talk about the dynamics with respect to Indian monsoon, there we look at different factors like El Nino. We'll talk about something called as Madden-Julian oscillation. We'll talk about something called as Atlantic Meridional Oceanic Circulations. We'll talk about something called as El Nino Modoki. We'll talk about something called as Indian Ocean Dipole. Right? Now we'll study that how are these different concepts going to affect the Indian monsoon. Right? If I was taking this particular class somewhere in 2018, I would not have talked about this topic because this topic was not relevant then, but it is relevant now in the context of exam. Right? Once we study about monsoon, once you understand the physiography, once you understand the climate, now you start understanding the vegetation. Vegetation. What is the nature of vegetation? Somewhere you will see thick forest, somewhere you will see thorny forest, somewhere you will see alpine forest, somewhere you will see coniferous forest, right? All these are spread. Somewhere you will see grasslands. Now this is basically a composite phenomenon of physiography and climate. Based on this vegetation only, you will have your biodiversity also. You will find your elephants, tigers mostly in your Western Ghats. Yes, you'll have birds like hornbill in the northeast, right? So application of geography to environment, right? That is important. Once you understand this vegetation aspect, the application part can be taken care of. Once you understand all of this, the next important thing that we need to talk about is drainage systems. Drainage systems, the river systems. You will talk about Ganga, you will talk about Brahmaputra, you will talk about Godavari, you will talk about Krishna, you will talk about Narmada, you will talk about Tapi, you will talk about Barak River, you will talk about other Subarnareka, Vamshadhara, Damodar, all these rivers. We'll talk about all these rivers. And we'll see what are the phenomena that is existing with respect to the drainage system. Why is this river flowing in this direction? Right? Did somebody go and pull that river? No, Arey, my dear, come in this way only. Or flow in this way only. No, you would find that most of your rivers are east flowing rivers. The fundamental understanding why it is east flowing rivers, why not west flowing rivers, we'll see that there is a tilt towards southeast. We'll see northwestern to southeastern tilt. We'll talk about different kinds of streams like antecedent, subsequent, consequent, insequent. All these drainage patterns we'll discuss. Trellis drainage pattern, rectangular drainage pattern, dendritic drainage pattern, annular drainage pattern, right? Centripetal drainage pattern. We'll discuss all these different types of patterns. Right? With us, we finish Indian geography. Okay. Indian geography over, world geography over, your geography is over. Right? We'll deal with all this. Okay. Now see, generally the modus operandi of my classes will be such that I would not prefer dictating notes, right? Because geography, when it goes for dictation of notes, you would not be able to understand more. I would prefer you writing running notes, point number one. Point number two, all the concepts will be explained, right? Point number two. Point number three, any doubt at any point of time of the class, you can stop me, you can ask, right? I might appear like a very serious candidate, and it might appear that if you ask me something, I'll hit you back. Don't fear, right? You can ask me any doubt, okay? You ask me any doubt, there and then I'll clarify it so that you don't carry it. Already there's a lot of burden on your head, right? All the family responsibilities are already on your head. You will feel like that, no? Huh? Right? So whenever you get any doubt, stop me, sir. This is the point. What is a clarification? I'll give you, right? So one is running notes. Two is whatever doubts you have, you can stop me and you can ask. Three, the important definitions I would dictate. Important definitions I would dictate because the verbatim of that particular definition is important. You can't write something very general in geography definition. Right? If you're talking about water stress, if you're talking about water scarcity, you have to use the parameters called 1700 cubic meters and 1000 cubic meters. It's not random, right? So understanding that necessity of the subject, I would give you the definitions of the important terms. But other aspects, other conceptual parts, please write running notes and you can stop me at any point of time to ask doubts. Okay. Anything you want to ask? I think I have 5 more minutes. Anything if you want to ask, you can share. Online students, so please, I mean, you're considering your decision that of entering the civil services. I forgot third sutra, right? I suddenly got reminded. Okay. The third sutra is, you can afford to stop reading books, but you can't afford to stop reading newspaper. If you're in this preparation, if you're a serious candidate, if you want to give this exam with all seriousness, never ever stop reading newspaper, please. Right? Now, in the initial days, start off today or tomorrow itself, whatever, start off today. And after this, do you have a class? No, you're free, right? Start off. In the initial days, what happens is it might appear that it is eating away a lot of time, right? It might appear for you reading one Hindu newspaper might take 3 hours, might take 3.5 hours, because you're still very, very nascent, right? You're still in the process, you're still being nurtured, but start reading it. Do not hesitate to invest 3 hours, 3.5 hours in your newspapers. The simple logic I'll tell you again is that now when you're reading your polity Lakshmikant, you will be able to revise only Lakshmikant. Yes? Will you be able to revise history in Lakshmikant? No. Lakshmikant did not start writing history book, right? Now, but when you take newspaper, just by reading the 20 pages, you will be able to revise polity in national politics, polity, their parliamentary functioning, right? Second, the governance aspect also you'll be able to revise. The international relations aspect also you'll be able to revise. The economy aspect also you'll be able to revise. The science and technology aspect you'll be able to revise. The current affairs aspect you'll be able to revise, right? The geography aspect as and when needed you'll be able to revise. The optional aspect in the form of case studies you'll be able to revise, right? Now in same 20 pages in the same 3.5 hours, you're able to revise 7 different aspects of your preparation. That means, which is very, very important as part of your preparation, right? I think my sessions would start somewhere late July for you, geography. Now, I think by that time, you would have crossed at least 15-20 days of newspaper reading. Once you are habituated to this practice of reading newspaper, I'll give you a revolutionary tool called mirroring technique. There is a technique called mirroring technique, which will flip your general studies mains score like anything. Trust me. That can be given only to those individuals who are regular with newspaper. Then only they'll be able to understand the essence of that practice. You practice that mirroring technique for next 100 days. Next 100 days, trust me, nobody is going to stop you from getting 400 in GS. Getting 400 in GS is a rank getting score. Trust me. My personal experience again, in my first attempt, I had a score of 360 or 370 in my GS, right? The year which I reached interview. Next year, after performing this mirroring technique, my score went up to 484. It was third highest in the country, 2017, right? I give all due credits to mirroring. I'll tell you what is the technique once you're habituated to reading this newspaper, right? Please do not leave newspaper. Start reading newspaper from today. Okay. Anything else? All good? All fine? All happy? Stay happy, stay cheerful, enjoy the process. Don't take it as if you're bearing some 100 tons on your head. You're still very, very young. Still very, very energetic. Do not overload your lives, right? Enjoy the process. Stay calm, stick to the process and control the controllables. It's all in line, right? Okay. Thank you, class. We'll meet for geography sessions. We'll start off with climatology, right? Thank you, online students.
So, Devesh Chaturvedi, All India rank 148. So here he want to help you all with the strategy, how to prepare for prelims, how to prepare for mains, and his secret of, or his hard work of All India rank 148, how he achieved it. If you have any queries in the Zoom session, you can message, and the Devesh Chaturvedi will be answering to your questions. Thank you, Devesh. Please carry on.
So, sir, yesterday the prelims result came, and sir, many of my friends they were not able to make it. There were people who were having fourth or fifth attempt, people who were in their first attempt, people who were in their second attempt. So, with each and every attempt, the toughness of prelims it's getting harder and harder. I myself, I was not able to clear the prelims for two times consecutively in the row. So, sir, the prelims, it's one of the most, I would say, the difficult portion of the entire journey because it's so unpredictable. You don't know what is going to come in the examination, how you are going to succeed, what kind of questions you are going to mark, what should be your strategy. Nobody knows that. So, I learned this thing in my third attempt as to what not to do for prelims. The prelims also contains of two step, the GS as well as the CSAT portion. The CSAT portion is also getting tougher and tougher each and every year. So lots of people from IITs and IIMs they are failing prelims. I personally know three or four people from IIT who were selected in this year. They were not able to make the qualifier prelims due to the CSAT. So, sir, the prelim strategy. Yesterday, sir, I wrote a blog on a Telegram. So I listed down a few of the things I'm going to read it. Uh, what was my strategy for prelims? So it was like this. So the people who have failed prelims this year. So I'll start with the people who are not able to qualify the prelims next year. And this advice it is going to help you in every stage, in whatever year you attempt for prelims, and if you're not able to clear the prelims examination. First of all, is if you're not able to clear, then you have to take a week off. You don't have to do anything abrupt. You don't have to make a major life decision in this portion. You don't have to apply for any other job. You don't have to start for prelims preparation again uh, after the day of your result. So you have to introspect what you have done wrong. Okay. You have to understand why you were not able to qualify the prelims. What were the mistakes that you did during the prelims paper? During those 2 hours, what did you do? What were your major problems so that you are not able to clear the cutoff? So there are two aspects. One is that you are very near to cutoff. Suppose the cutoff is somewhere 88, 89, and you were scoring somewhere around 90, but in any case, you were not able to qualify the prelims. So, what were the problems that you were not able to clear the cutoff? I missed the cutoff in my second attempt, which was my actual. Acha, they are all beginners. Okay, sir. So still, sir, the thing is going to be like this only that if you are going to attempt a prelims paper, for example, any mock you are going to attempt. So suppose if you are scoring somewhere 50, 60, 70, or whatever marks you are going to score. So you have to analyze that why you scored such a low marks. What were the problems in your that preparation phase? What kind of questions that were there that you made wrong? For example, if you give a polity sectional test, so there is a very basic question. There was a very basic question between difference between the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The question was something like, what are the extraordinary powers of Lok Sabha? So this question it is given directly in the Lakshmikant. So many of my friends who were not able to clear the prelims, they missed on this easy questions. So you have to understand this one thing that you will clear prelims only and only if you're not doing any silly mistakes in those easy questions. In those easy questions where everyone is going to get that question right. For example, a simple question of fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and DPSP. In basic modern history, suppose a question comes on Krebs mission, if a question comes on Swadeshi movement. In geography, if a question is of ocean currents or if there is a mountain range and they have asked you to arrange it from north to south. So these are very easy questions. These can be found in your basic books. So you have to realize this fact. First of all, you have to make all the easy questions correct. Second aspect, there are again two things that you have to do for prelims. First is static, and second is current affairs. So what I did a major mistake in my second attempt was I emphasized too much on current affairs. I used to read three newspapers at that time. I used to read five current affair magazines, and I ultimately failed very miserably. So you don't have to do that. You have to remember that prelims static se niklega. Matlab, if you're not confident on your static portion, on that basic polity, economy, modern questions, there is a miracle that can help you to clear the prelims examination. So the static books, that basic Lakshmikant, the basic Shankar Ias, whatever resources you are following, the basic spectrum, you have to read and revise those books again and again and again and again till the time that if someone asks you this thing, which on which page this thing was there. For current affairs, in my third attempt, what I realized, what was my major problem was in my preparation. So, what students generally tend to do is that there is a very popular magazines from various coaching institutes. They kind of publish an annual compilation. So people read that. Okay, many people clear, many people don't. So if you are a beginner, and if you have not read newspaper your entire year, your current affair magazines entire year, and you're planning to just read that some 500 to 600-page document, and you're expecting to clear prelims, so let me tell you, my dear friends, you are in a very big, I would say, galat fahmi, because the prelims, it's getting very hard. Hardly two or three questions, or directly four or five questions come from these magazines, and indirectly you can solve somewhere around 12 to 20 questions. So that indirect question solving, it comes when you have understood what is written in those magazines. So rather than depending on that annual compilation, you should focus on monthly prelims magazines. This was my major change for current affairs, which I did in my third attempt. I used to have that one, any kind, whatever you want to follow one coaching magazine, revise it 5 to 6 to 7 times. How much do you want? Whatever times do you want? Solve a test series. There are some prelims test series. There are subjects are there. Then there are subject plus current affairs. And then there are full length tests. So once you have read a subject, solve that paper. Once you have read that current affair month, then that solve that paper. So you have to spread your current affair preparation throughout the year rather than focusing on that uh, 3 month or 4 month time where you have to mug up a lot of syllabus. You don't have to do that. You have to spread your preparation. You have to spread out the current affairs preparation, because the current affairs, it's most humongous task. You are so emotionally vulnerable in your end 4 or 5 months, and 1 month, that your mind, it is so active that you think that you will read everything, anything and everything that comes. So you'll go to the market, you'll purchase Vision ka bhi, Insights ka bhi, Forum ka bhi, sabka aap kharid ke, you will start mugging up, and you will ultimately fail the prelims. I'm telling you this because I did the same. So so these are the things that you must not do for prelims. You should not run after too many sources at the end time. You should focus on revision. Whatever you have read throughout the year, you must revise those things in 2 or 3 months. So now coming to third aspect, the test paper solving. So there are also two aspects to it. One is the that solving of whatever coaching mocks come, and second is the previous year question. So uh, what I did in my second attempt, I solved 111 test papers. It sounds very humongous task, and you will be asking, sir, why were you not able to clear the exam? So the thing was that I did a lot of things. So my mind, it had a lot of stuff in my lot of stuff was present in my mind. I was not able to filter out the clutter. I was reading useless things. Suppose if you are solving a paper, hardly, I am repeating this thing, hardly 20 questions are of your use out of 100 questions. If their question paper consists of 100 questions, there would be 40 to 50 questions which are present in your book. You will read that. 20 questions are there which are increasing your knowledge base. And remaining questions, they are frankly useless. They are never going to come in examination. You have to filter out. You have to know that these kinds of questions will not be asked in the examination. So you don't have to emphasize too much your time on those types of questions. How would you learn this thing? So before going to any coaching test paper, pick up a previous year question paper, any be it subject wise, be it year wise, and try to see the patterns of questions that have been asked in the past 10 to 12 years. You'd realize that there are several aspects, there are several questions, there are several areas which are being asked repeatedly, that are being asked repeatedly. For example, the polity, there are 20 questions, they are going to come no matter what. Then there's economy, there are somewhere 15 to 18 questions, it is going to come no matter what. Then there is history, 20 questions no matter what. Then other aspects are there. Everything, the division, it is uniform throughout the year. So the basic subjects are polity, your modern, your economy, your environment, and your geography. So these five questions, there is an 80-20 rule. There is something called Pareto principles. I heard it somewhere. The 80-20 rule states that from the 20% of your syllabus, your 80% is going to come. So from these four or five basic books, your major chunk of the portion in the prelims examination, it is going to come. So you have to realize this thing while you are solving the previous year questions. Go for any book. There is I would say, a book by Mrinal sir is there. I had got this KBC Nano book, which used to have all previous year questions arranged in a sequential manner. So you could buy that. You have to analyze the areas, the things, the questions are coming. So these are the three aspects. Now, fourth aspect is the most important, I would say, and I kept it for the last, the sources. You know the traditional sources, but there are few of the sources which I would like to emphasize. And the people generally, they don't do that. Even if they clear the prelims, they don't do that. The most important is 6th, 7th, 8th NCRT of history. 6th, 7th, 8th NCRT of history. That small books are there, and there I would say the very rich in information, very rich in information. I remember that in 2018, 19, and 20, more than 4 or 5 questions from history directly came from these books in those 3 years. I didn't find more than 2 questions from these NCRTs in the last 2 years, but it was a general trend that the questions, it came from these 3 books. Then there is a theme book of class 12, that first, second, and third, that theme 1, theme 2, and theme 3 of ancient, medieval, and modern. You should also read those things because it also contains a lot of, I would say, lot of stuff is there, and you should start reading it simultaneously. Like right now, if you're going to prepare after a year now, you have to start reading those books because those books are very bulky. Those books are very bulky, and you will not be able to revise all those things if you're reading the book for the very first time in the month of March. So these are the few books. Then you'll read geography, you'll read G.C. Leong, you'll read whatever, if you're watching that Mrinal Sarka lecture. So you'll be doing that. But these 5 books, what I have told, that people generally don't read it. So I would say that read these books. So this is all, I would say, this is a broad analysis about the prelims. Sustain motivation while preparing for civil services. So I would say that motivations are, it's a very overrated thing, I would say, because motivation is, you don't need any external motivation. It's a very cliched thing. While I was studying for the civil services in the initial years, I used to ask the same question to whatever senior I used to meet in my college. So they also used to say the same cliched answer, that you don't need to have an external motivation. You must have that antaragni, which means that inner fire, that okay, I am going to do this thing because these are my reasons. So you should find your reason, that why do you want to do civil services. And trust me, if you don't have a solid reason, you'll never be able to make it through examination. This is the harsh reality of this examination. even if you have, then also the competition is difficult. I know people who have a very good reason. They are very hardworking, but luckily, I would say they are very unlucky that they are not able to qualify. But if you don't have any, I would say, ethical reason or a very strong will or desire to come into this examination, you'll not be able to face the pressure that examination gives. So you will ultimately succumb under the pressure. So you must have that very strong reason. So I would say this is my source of motivation. My source was that my father was civil servant, so I wanted to make him proud, explore the kind of life that I had been given since childhood. So I want to continue that thing into in my future life as well. So this was my motivation. Yours could be anything. Any other question regarding prelims? Okay. So I would move on to mains preparation. So in mains preparation, you have to realize that there are two aspects to mains again. Three aspects, I would say. First is content, second is presentation, third is speed. So, and what generally people who are clearing prelims but not clearing mains or clearing mains by 1 or 2 marks, there are three things I told: content, presentation, and speed. They'll having one or two things, but he'll not be having all three things together. You need to have all three things together in that particular 3 hours time of examination. So the main strategy, it's very broad. I will not. It's very broad. I would say it's very big. It's not able possible for me to tell you in 30 minutes. So I would say what you can do. So again, here also the previous year, it's the Bible. UPSC has given you only two things: the syllabus as well as the previous year question. All other things, all across the market, it's just hype. You don't know anything what is going to come, but previous year, the questions which can come in the particular in the examination. What kind of questions can come? So, for example, paper one. So there is a general misconception amongst the students that paper one is just society. Yeah. So no, it's not society. It's part society, part geography, part history, and part culture. So you have to realize that geography forms a major portion in paper one. Almost 100 marks question come each year out of 250 marks. 100 marks come from geography. Then you have society. Society forms somewhere around 70 marks. Then you have history. History forms rest of the paper, which includes that modern as well as culture portion. Okay. So the answer writing, sir, I'll come to that aspect. So I told you about the one paper. ठीक है ना कि पेपर वन में you have to analyze क्या क्या portions है. Similarly for paper two, paper three, and paper four, you sit, buy a previous year book ka solution, and just even I think that sir also provides one of those compendiums of previous year questions which are which have come from 2013 onwards. So the question on the answer writing, it's one of the most difficult questions, I would say, in the civil services preparation, because when should you start? So when I started my preparation, so there was a lot of hawa. यार answer writing करना है, answer writing करना है. So I started at that time only. I didn't know anything. So I used to write scribble something, 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 something. But it was very, very bad. I would say I received a very bad advice in those days, because I used to watch that topper videos, and topper used to say कि भाई शुरू कर देने का है ना, अखबार पढ़ो, उसके आर्टिकल का वो सब करो. You don't have to do such things. You should start, and I would say ideally you should start when suppose your whole preparation it is over. मतलब एक बार अगर आपने जीएस का पूरा सिलेबस कर लिया है, if you have made notes of the syllabus of those syllabus, you should do then. If you have completed your whole GS1, suppose you have done your history, your art and culture, you have done your geography, then you should uh, take any coaching, whatever coaching test series you are preferring. You should take those things and you should solve those questions. Try to write those answers. And before like buying test series, you should go to topper. That topper notebooks are present on various coaching institutes. So you should go there. First of all, you have to spend at least. Okay, I'll answer this question as well. So that topper question copies are there on various coaching websites. You go there, you see what kind of answers they have written and how they have written it. Because that answer writing, it's purely skill. It's not, I would say, matter of hard work as well as skill. No one is going to teach you how to answer it. You'll have to learn yourself. So there are various, I would say, some YouTube videos are also present that live answer writing things are there. One of my juniors, he did, and he ultimately cleared the examination in first attempt itself. So you can also see those things as well. There is a live answer writing program. They teach you how to write answer. So you could do this that thing in I would say 1 or 2 months. You could see how they are writing answer. Then you should go to toppers answer copies to see what they have written. Then after you should start your answer writing with 4 or 5 questions daily. You try to scribble it. You try to whatever it is there and show it to your teachers. You have to show it to someone rather than buying that 20 full 25,000 wala test series. First learn to write, just learn to write abcd rather than before forming a paragraph. You have to do that. So now the question was, what was the question? How to your mains preparation? Okay, so what I did in my last attempt was he mains preparation, it has also has two portions. One is static, one is current affairs. So you should realize that just as in prelims, if you're not able to clear if you're not having strong command over your static portion, you'll not be able to clear prelims. Same is this, same and same that is the condition with the mains. Because in mains also, almost in paper 1 as well as paper 4, in these papers, almost 70 to 90% the questions are there which are static. It means that history, polity, history, geography, these are static portions. The questions are going to come from this section. In paper 4, it's whole ethics is there. Ethics is also a static portion. Very small syllabus, but it's a very difficult thing to write on paper. So the current affairs, it comes in paper 2 and 3. So your preparation planning should be such like that after you have given your prelims and you're confident about clearing your prelims, so you should start with one of those static GS like ethics or GS1, and along with your optional, and try to complete it as fast as possible. In 20 days, complete your one GS. In next 10 days, complete your next GS. And after various current affair compilations of various coaching institutes that 365, they come, so before those magazines come, and you spend your majority of time in those magazines, also try to cover the static portion of GS2 and GS3 as well, because there are more than 60% of syllabus in both GS. They are also static. Like basic polity question is going to come, that RPA kya hota hai, anti-defection kya hota hai, citizen charter kya hota hai. These are the keywords which I mentioned in your syllabus. So you have to complete these things first, because if these questions comes and if you're not able to write a good answer on these questions, you're never going to qualify the prelims. Forget about the rank. You have to focus on static questions first, the questions which everyone is going to write in a much better way. I remember one question was there in 2019, 2021. It was asking about departmental standing committees. It's a very easy topic, I would say. It's a, you have read those things in the your Lakshmikant, but I don't know any of my friends who were able to write very decent answer in that question. They didn't know when departmental standing committees formed, what was the year it was formed, how many departmental standing committees are there, let alone forget about its function. So these the kind of question you will observe that like public account committee is coming, estimate committee is coming, difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is coming. They seem to be a very easy question. Yeah, बहुत आसान देखने में लगता है, but when you are going to write, you will not be able to, you'll forget the constitutional article which is going to come. So you have to complete your static portion first in as fast as you can before you jump to current affairs. So your plan should be like that only. Anything else? So I'll move on to interview now. So I would say interview, interview तो बहुत बात की चीज आती है, तो I'll बहुत broadly मैं बता देता हूँ आप लोगों को what were my interview questions. Okay, so my interview was on 19th of April. So the questions, what they asked were, they were 80% DAF based. So I am from city of Varanasi. They asked me questions on Varanasi. I had done my graduation from IIT ISM Dhanbad. They asked me questions on that ISM Dhanbad, Dhanbad ke baare mein. Then I had an option anthropology. They asked few questions on anthropology, and there was very interesting question which was asking about that artificial meat. The questions of artificial chicken was there. So they asked me my reviews on what do I think, what religious, is it hampering your religious kind of a thing. Then there was a one ethical question related tha. Then there was various questions on science and technology, space application. Then the question was on Corona was there, on Shanghai ports versus Indian ports were there. Then variety of questions were there. They're not very difficult questions. They just wanted to have a conversation with you. They just wanted to understand what kind of personality you are, what you think, what you are thinking on a particular aspect. You can, I mean, say you can have a divergent view from a, I would say, popular notion. Acha, I have the self doubt. Okay, so there is a quote by I would say Nelson Mandela, which says that it always seems impossible until it is done. So until you'll see your name in that list, it is going to be the toughest examination for you. So you have to hope that you'll see you have to have that self belief that you will be able to find your name in that list. I remember that on 31st the result was coming, and I was preparing for prelims, which was 5 days away. I was so sure my name is not going to come because I didn't have much expectation in for this examination. So if you want to reduce this toughness, that toughness and the fear, so you have to reduce your expectation. You whenever you're preparing. So just believe that okay, ऐसा यू शुडंट बी बहुत ज्यादा ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आ जाना चाहिए कि यार आईएएस पहली बार में निकालेंगे. यू शुड हैव दैट कि चलो इस बार प्रीलिम्स निकल गए हैं, चलो इस बार मेंस निकल गया, इंटरव्यू देके आ ले ठीक है. मतलब ऐसा यू शुड हैव दैट. अपने आप को आप बताओ, ये नहीं कि आपका एटीट्यूड ही ऐसा हो जाए कि नहीं एक ही रन में निकालेंगे. तो एक्सपेक्टेशन को जितना लो हो सके उतना रखिए. डोंट फॉल इनटू दोस ट्रैप ऑफ कि यार मैं इतना करके आया हूँ, मेरे 250 में से 200 नंबर आएंगे मेंस में. डोंट फॉल इन दीज थिंग्स बिकॉज यू डोंट नो व्हाट काइंड ऑफ मार्किंग इज गोइंग टू बी देयर. So keep your expectations low and work hard. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst. This is, I would say, this is my, I would say, the exam motto of examination. Okay, prepared for CSAT. Yes, yes, yes. So CSAT it is getting tougher and tougher. I would say that four of my IITN friends, they lost to CSAT. They were somewhere around 30 questions they only did correctly, and remaining questions they were wrong. So what I did was I used to pick up those, some test papers from market, 10 to 12 test papers. So you must remember that CSAT, it's not a tough exam as such. The questions, they're also not that tough. It's a game of emotion. I would say that first 9 to 11 you give your prelims in, what conditions. Then there is a 3 hour gap, and in those 3 hour gap, what majority of the people they do is they try to check the answers of the paper that they gave in the first half, and they tend to lose their whatever I would say that little bit sanity that they have in mind. You don't have to do that. You have to practice a little, practice 4 or 5 papers, see previous year questions, have some formula ready for those 3 hours. Have a sleep. Sleep is very important in those 3 hours. Eat some strong, I would say, eat some light food, and have some solid food. Eat some. So the prelims in this year, it was in May. It was very hot outside. So you have to keep yourself cool for those uh, 3 hours, so that you can perform in those 2 hours. Chats, okay. Overcome. How can to overcome the starting problem while seeing the question while preparing? Sorry, Sri Harsha, I'm not able to understand your question. Can you tell that to sir? So said, sir could form a question prepare. Okay. How you prepared for ethics? Okay. So what I read was there is one book called DK Balaji wala book. So I read that. Then I referred to Vision ka value added material. So you should realize that ethics, there, matlab, a lot of confusion is with the people about preparing for ethics. So ethics is like syllabus is this much, but ethics preparation is this much. However, you much how so whatever you read, it's not going to matter unless and until you know what to write. At the end of the day, you will realize that you have to just remember definition of 4 or 5 uh, some 40 or 50 words like integrity is there, probity is there, governance is there. You must know the definition of these. Bas, usse zyada- at the end of the day. Baki, it's a pure game of answer writing. You have to have that, I would say, knack of writing answers in that theory portion as well as in that case study portion. You must have, how to answer a question, how to approach a theory, what to write in a theory, what not to write in a theory. And because ethics paper, it's bit longer. In the number of words that we have to write in ethics, it's largest than GS paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, as well as your options. So ethics, it's the largest paper. You have to have a lot of answer writing practice. I joined a test series, a Dusra wala test series. So I would say that writing, it is going to, it will improve your marks rather than just reading. Okay. Compulsory. We have to bother about compulsory paper like okay. Yes. Also, very good question, sir, has asked that regional paper as well as English. So I was reading a blog of an IS officer of the batch 2016. It was his third attempt. In first attempt, he was not able to qualify that prelims. In second attempt, he was not able to qualify that Hindi paper. And in third attempt, he became an IS officer. So almost, I would say some 5 to 6% people they lose in the regional paper as well. So you don't have to, these are some of the basic blunders you should not commit. So, sir, should I start with geography now? So now I'll start with geography. So geography, I would say, is one of the most important part of your whole whole CSE preparation. So the geography, it again, there are three portions. First is understanding what geography is there. Second is mugging up facts, and third is the answer writing skill. So the questions in geography they are decreasing. With time they are decreasing in prelims, but they are increasing in mains. So last year the questions in geography, the proper geography, it kind of reduced. Like 4 or 5 questions from great geography were there. But in mains it increased to 110 marks. So you will have to read geography. Matlab, you cannot do anything about it. So what I did was there are 3 or 4 things. First of all, if you are beginner to geography, please read 6 to 10th NCRT because questions come from those portions and you'll tend to lose your marks if you're not able to answer those basic questions. It will hardly take a week. Read that 6 to 10th whole NCRT 2 or 3 times and just leave it. Just leave it. And your main source of preparation would be 11th, 12th NCRT, your GC Leong wala portion, as well as what I followed was Mridal pe Raj Solanki ma'am ka video was there. So I used to do those things. This is the study portion. For writing purposes, you will have to first look at the previous year question, the kind of questions that are coming. So last year there was a question on volcano. The volcano around the world, how much they are erupting. What are the places where they are erupting? It was a very difficult question to attempt because they asked us to name the names of volcanoes. So it was a very difficult question, but I had studied the previous year. So I found that this question, it was repeated 2 times in the previous year question. One in 2013, and one in somewhere 2015-16. So you have to realize that the kind of questions they are going to come. So there is a physical geography, then there is a Indian geography, then we have that human geography. So for physical geography, there are a lot of landform wala cheeze like earthquake kaise banta hai and how are those formed. Earthquake mountain formation is there. The continental belt. the continental plate, the oceanic plate, how do they submerge with each other, the kind of mountains are present, and these things. So you have to analyze that questions from the previous year. What kind of questions are asked, and you note down these questions. Acha, the volcano where question aa gaya, then earthquake pe aa gaya, then is pe aa gaya, us pe aa gaya. Then you'll get the broader points. Just prepare on those points, and your 80% of geography in mains it will be covered. For human geography, the question basically comes in the form of like last year it was location of industry, software industry, location of textile, location of sugarcane. These kind of questions are going to come. Then there are few other questions are there which are more application based questions are there. For example, the landslide wala portion, the mangrove wala portion, the coral wala portion. So these things they are actually not geography per se, but their geography come economics. But these questions come in paper one, so we count it as geography. So you analyze these kind of questions and any kind of magazine that you read, and a little bit of answer writing. It is going to help you in mains. For prelims, apart from these things, there are two aspects. One is mapping. Mapping becomes very important, both India mapping as well as the world mapping. So I personally used to like doing maps. I would say, very much. I remember all the countries as well as their location when I started to read a map. So it was my interest. But you also have to do that because into 2020 there was a question which, unfortunately, I got it wrong. The question was the Orange River, where it does fall. So it was a very absurd question. There was, I would say, no point in asking. I didn't know the where the question came from. But this kind of questions are going to come. So you must have that the whole idea कि equator कहाँ से पास होता है, the tropic of cancer कितनी country से पास होता है, these things, these are basic small things. The question जैसे इस साल आया, the Afghanistan surrounding regions क्या क्या हैं, the caps last year 2019 the question was कि Caspian Sea को surrounding nations क्या हैं, question of North Sea, these things they are going to come one way or another. You have to do that. The whole major geographic locations of the world and arranging them from north to south, south to north, these basic things. Then in the Indian geography, the mapping portion becomes very important. For example, geography itself, now you'll explore the areas. For example, in mapping, the national parks, the Ramsar sites, the wildlife sanctuaries, the tiger reserves, then there are various plateaus are there, like various plateaus like Marathawad Plateau, like different kind of things. So for this, I read a PMFIS. This was not, I would say, for Indian geography, you should refer to PMFIS because it's very, I would say, intense kind of a thing, very elaborate. It's there, and once you read it, now you'll never miss out on any questions of geography. I would say the NCRT it suffices, but in NCRT there are names written like there is a Pelikonda Hill or Velikonda Hill or Parshunad Hill. These kind of names are written, but the question what UPSC asks is that कि यार गोदावरी नदी कहाँ से जाती है? गोदावरी नदी where does it pass through? So you have to know all the aspect of a particular region. So if you are suppose studying a northeast wala portion, so you should start with पहले तो उसका पूरा geography, then the river which passes, the hills are there, the national parks, the Ramsar sites, and उसका state का location क्या है. This would form your actual geography of that region. Then you go to South India. There are too much very biosphere reserves. God knows what is there in the South Indian region. So you have a basic idea of everything. The questions they are not going to be directly very intense question. It is not going to be there. There will be options which you will be able to eliminate easily. But if you don't have a knowledge about ये वाला portion क्या है, गोदावरी नदी अगर आप यूपी से बहा दे रहे हो, है ना, या आप कावेरी आप महाराष्ट्र से बहा दे रहे हो, तो फिर you will be able to आप गलत हो जाओगे इन सवालों में. तो ज्योग्राफी में जो है अपार्ट फ्रॉम योर एनसीईआरटी, ये आपको बेसिक चीजें होती है वो भी कवर हो जाएंगी. लाइक हैव अ मैप, आप चीजें मार्क कर लीजिए, अच्छा इतना इतना हो रहा है. और प्रीलिम्स के टाइम पे फिर एक दो महीने पे ऐसे बस रात को सोते समय मैप निकाल लिया और देख लिया कि अच्छा चलिए ये सब आ रहा है. लाइक दीज थिंग्स आर कमिंग and you are covering this portion. Also refer to the previous year because since the last, I would say, 10 years, I have seen almost 7 to 8 mapping wala questions get repeated from the past. So once you will see that, you'll also be able to analyze these are the things that you have to do for prelims, specifically for geography. Okay, so what message was there? Current affair preparation, sir. Please guide us about the current. Okay. So current affairs, you must understand that in current affairs, there are two or three things. First of all, newspaper reading is there. Then that monthly wala cheese hai, monthly whatever you read. And third is the application portion. So you have to understand that that newspaper reading, I would say it's a very big, बहुत ज़्यादा शोर है उसका मार्केट में कि I have to read this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. You must realize that newspaper, it is not a basic preparation for yourself. It's only going to supplement what you have studied, whatever you have studied. It is not your basic preparation. For example, if there is an article on, something article, big article is given, it is on farmer के ऊपर कुछ कुछ दे रखा है, and the question it is asking about यूरिया है, या आपका कोई आर्टिकल आ गया डिजास्टर पे, या आर्टिकल आ गया वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट पे, तो that article is there. It is not your basic of preparation. It is going to help you to understand develop an understanding आपके माइंड के लिए. लेकिन जो एक्चुअल चीजें हैं, दैट इज योर सिलेबस. वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट में what are the points which you are going to write? You have to have that points which you are going to write and use the data that you've obtained from this current affair portion in that thing. So ऐसा करना है. तो फॉर करंट अफेयर्स देखिए, न्यूज़पेपर मैंने स्टार्टिंग में बहुत टाइम वेस्ट किया है. आई यूज्ड टू स्पेंड 3 to 4 hours in reading as well as making notes. Don't fall into such trap. There are various channels on Telegram. आप जाके उस पर देख सकते हो what are the relevant news which is going to come. And also many coaching institutes, like I used to follow insights in my second, third term, that they used to have a मतलब daily अच्छा ये चीजें आ गई, read that. First, read your newspaper, then read that magazine in the night. You'll realize that these are the things, relevant things for the current affairs preparation. Once you are able to understand what not to read from a newspaper, you will be able to, solve that myth of current affair preparation. Current affairs, I would say, it's a very small portion of your preparation. It's not a large portion. It's a very small portion. I would say somewhere around 20 to 25, 30% of preparation. But people spend 90% time on the current affair wala portion. So focus on the static first. First, try to link the static. First, read the static. Then learn to link the static with the current affairs. Then you'll realize that what not to read for current affairs. So, sir, I would say that this is from my side. If there are any more questions, you can ask.
Basically, very good point Devesh told, that is static, polity, economy, history, geography. So leaving that, we will be worrying about current affairs. I remember, Devesh, once you told me, sir, students will be running around current affairs, but we should focus mainly on static. The same thing which we discussed, the same thing he delivered here. That means, so you have to focus more on polity, economy, history, and geography. Apart from it, any doubts you have, then I will ask Devesh. Anyone have any doubts? Any specific doubts which are haunting you? So, Devesh ji, एक प्रश्न है. So one of the aspirant did not clear the prelims. So he want to come back for the again. So for those people, those who didn't clear the prelims, to come back and to fight, what type of attitude they must have?
Okay. So I would say that prelims failure, it's, I would say, one of the biggest failure that people, they think that they have failed in life. They don't know what they'll say to their parents, what they'll say to their teachers, what they'll say to their friends. But I would say that you are lucky that you failed in prelims, I would say, because you have an entire year to work upon. I was lucky that I failed in prelims twice in my second attempt, because after that I realized that I was doing a lot of mistakes. My whole preparation, it was very flawed. So you have to analyze that flaw, why you failed prelims. Once you'll understand why you failed prelims, ultimately the mains as well as interview preparation, it will go very smoothly. Because the preparation, it's very tough. You have to read a lot of things, lots and lot of things. and it's a game of your emotion. If you're able to handle that, and realize, first take the question paper that you gave, first of all, take a week, chill, go roam somewhere, go on a trip, don't study, don't talk to anyone about prelims, अच्छा नहीं गया, वो नहीं गया, ये नहीं गया. Don't fall into such traps. After a week, take your paper, analyze what kind of questions you did wrong. You will find that you were not able to clear prelims, not because you were not able to answer that Lake Fabi question, that Fanam wala question, or hard history questions. You realize that you were not able to clear prelims because you were not able to answer basic quality wala question, basic economy wala questions. Analyze those silly mistakes, analyze those uh, easy questions that you did wrong, and you will find that there are 7 to 8 questions that were very easy and that you did wrong because you were focusing on too much current affairs, you were focusing on too a random test series, you're trying to gain knowledge. So you have to focus on that thing, and this should be your attitude. Once you learn to do this thing, your entire preparation is going to be smooth. But learning this thing is very difficult, I would say. मतलब you बहुत ज्यादा सेल्फ इंट्रोस्पेक्शन आपको चाहिए इस चीज के लिए, टू नॉट रन ऑन टू मेनी सोर्सेस, just to focus on what you did wrong, nothing else. But it's just a matter of time. Give it some time, you'll understand.
More question, which I
Yes,
want
sir.
to ask you. Last question is, I am from Telugu medium, I am from English, Hindi medium, I am from vernacular medium. So
Yes,
those
sir.
students who are not good at English, how
Yes,
they
sir.
have to feel whether this is only for English medium students or a vernacular language person can also crack this exam in English medium.
Okay, sir. So, so the name of examination is civil services examination. Okay. So you need a just a decent grasp of your English. You must know how to form a sentence, what to write in a sentence. You don't have to be Shakespeare. You don't have to be, writing very flowery language. If you're writing a flowery language, and if a common man is not able to understand that thing, you're not going to get marks. I'm telling you, ye likh ke le lijiye. Because whatever answer that you are writing, suppose whatever essay that you are writing, try to give it to a person who is not from a UPSC background. If he is able to understand what you have written in that essay in a very simple English, you will get good marks. If you're trying to become a Shakespeare philosopher, and if you're not making sense about what you have written, then there is no point. But you'll not get marks. You'll not even know that why you failed in this examination, because 10 lakh people, they appear in this examination. A lot of people, they are from very good background. I would say very good, from DU, Oxford, say IIT, say har jagah se. But you would find that there are various people who, I would say, like 40 to 50% of the people who are selected, they are from very humble background. इंग्लिश बस उन्होंने इंटरव्यू के लिए बोलना सीख लिया रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में, धीरे धीरे मतलब टूटी फूटी इंग्लिश बोल के आ गए, बट दे गॉट 195. I personally know a lot of people. So I'm telling you, this English, it's just a आपके दिमाग का वो बना रखा है, आप खुद को आगे जाने से रोकने के लिए you have made that, अब बाधा आपने अपने खुद के लिए बना रखी है. So it's nothing like that. When you clear the examination, you will understand that it's just a matter of preparation, nothing else.
Yes. So thank you, Devesh
Thank you,
Chaturvedi.
sir.
Thank you very much for your insights and perspectives. And mainly, the point which is delivered is static subjects are very, very important. So we will be running behind current affairs. I also, part of this particular ideology only, we will running around current affairs, but static is important. We have to get command over the subject. Thank you, Devesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank
So
you
I
so
will
much for
be,
having
again,
me,
we
sir.
will, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Why we are making uh, to get the points or information from the rankers, because so they are the successful people. So what they did, true, 100% true. One point what Devish told is, we will be leaving economy, we will be leaving history, we will be leaving geography, we will be leaving polity, and we will be running around reading newspaper for 2 hours. That is good only, but what happened, it became like a trend. It's not like that. Reading newspaper is good, but not 2 hours. It is not worth 2 hours. You have to be very selfish. You have to be very much calculative if you want to crack in 2023. If you are keeping 30 minutes of time, it should result that much. If you are keeping 2 hours of time, that much result it should come. Newspaper, you have to read 1 hour. Beginners should read 1 hour, not more than 1 hour. Not more than 1 hour. Then you have to go for economy. Then you have to go for this time 20 questions from polity, sorry, economy. Last time history. Before that polity. If you are strong in these 4 subjects, polity, economy, history, geography, no one can stop you. No one can stop you. Current affairs, we will be doing weekly. Current affairs, we will have weekly sessions. How we planned means every Saturday or Sunday or Monday, one day every week. But we planned Saturday. Every Saturday we will be having a current affairs session. How? Science and technology, current affairs in this week. Polity, current affairs in this week. Economy, current affairs in this week. So all the things which happened in 1 week, you will be delivering this particular class of current affairs. Like that, very judiciously we have to do, and at the same time reading newspaper also important, but not putting more than 1 hour of time. So 1 hour of time for newspaper, static subject, every subject 1 hour, polity 1 hour, economy 1 hour, history. I'm talking about your self preparation. Polity 1 hour, economy 1 hour, history 1 hour, geography 1 hour. These are 4 important. Leave about science and technology, we will come across. Leave about international relations also we will come across in newspaper. But these 4 static are very, very important. That is the reason we are having a very good faculty. Total in Hyderabad. I don't know about Delhi, but total in Hyderabad, the best of the best. Polity, I am. Economy, Puran Reddy sir. History, Rasul sir. And these are what happens, if they are too much popular, they will be too much busy. They will not give you time. If they are medium person, they will give time and they will work hard. Why? Because they want more name. So we should not go for the down. We should not go for the high also. We should go for medium. When we go for medium, they will give investment. They will put investment on you. What time? Why? Because they want the name. And they are well settled also. Today, geography sir. Goutham sir, tomorrow his result, Indian Forest Service, 100% will clear. Take my word. Tomorrow, no, today only I am telling. I told for so many people, it happened, I will see. Again, I will check myself. Tomorrow, Indian Forest Service result, we will see. So here we are going to focus on this static. Polity, economy, geography and history. And tomorrow you are going to have the session on international relations from 2 to 3:30. And 3:30 you are going to have the session on Indian Foreign Service Officer. Our student only 3:39. Shivaraman S. from Tamil Nadu. He will be taking from 3:30 to 4:30. So on international relations, specifically how Devesh discussed about geography. How Ashwin discussed about polity. How Satish discussed about ethics. So tomorrow there will be session on international relations. You can also ask questions. Okay. That's it. Thank you. And Monday onwards, you will be having regular classes. Monday onwards. Starting, we will have only 3 hours. 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. polity. 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. economy. Then we will have geography classes. Then we will have history classes. First, my priority is static. We have to get command on the static. Current affairs Saturday, I will tell you how to do also. But if you have command on static, no one can stop. So these 4 statics you will be having. Slowly, these 3 hours will become 5 hours. Slowly. The poison will go slowly. Okay. Thank you.